Yeah, g'day. It's Todd here from Kiwi Rider magazine. We're just here with Dave Cullen, former mechanic of Graham Crosby's. We're at a signing at Cycle Treads. We just mentioned actually the sad passing of Kenny Fletcher, who was a GP mechanic, and Dave, you were saying he was Suzuki just before you got there. What are your memories of Ken?
Well, I used to work with Ken for a day or two at Comerford's on Thames Ditton in London. I was going to take over Ken's job when he moved to work with Barry Sheene. He was doing Ivan Miller's KTMs for Comerford's, the importers of Bultaco and KTM at the time. And I applied for that job and got that job. And so I had, maybe a week working with Ken there. And 2 weeks later, I got the position with Suzuki that I'd previously applied for, but I'd pretty much given up on it. It was dragging out. So, we sort of joined up again at Suzuki a couple of weeks later, as it turned out. Ken was working from Charlwood. That was when Barry took his bikes in-house at the Manor House in Charlwood, and Ken worked from down there with Diane, his son, Brian. And we spent quite a bit of time down there at Charlwood, especially on weekends. Jerry Burgess and I'd go down, we'd frequent the hotels of the area on the weekends with Ken, Diane, and Barry's uncle Arthur. So it was, there were some good times. I can remember a trip we had to Milan. I think we're at Imola. And the rules had changed whereby Kiwis and Aussies needed to have visas to get into Spain at that time. So it was a recent change that we weren't aware of, so we had to race into Milan. So Ken, Diane and I went into Milan. Didn't have a clue where we're going, but we went and found the embassies and got some visas, and had to end up staying overnight in Milan. And so we had some good experiences that night, finding our way around the place. That was a whole lot of fun. But Ken always had a good story to tell, especially about his days racing here in New Zealand, his road racing days with Trevor Discombe. You're probably well aware that he took a TZ 700 to Europe and was intending on racing it. I think he actually did race it at Paul Ricard. Had some problems with fuel and whatever you, seizures, and I don't think Ken really road raced again after that. He took up the position with Barry, which he held for many years up until Barry's retirement from the sport. And so that was the time I spent with Ken, and it was it was quite good. We got on well, and we had one little run in once, and once we sorted that out, we're fine after that. So he was, I remember him as a redhead who could fire up but didn't very often, and which is that was my memories of Ken. And he got a bit of a workover from the English mechanics at the time, coming into like the top job with Barry. They were a little envious of it, jealous perhaps. So he had to battle through that at the start, but he did, like the trooper he was.
Yeah, fantastic. So you talked about it being a bit of a battle with Ken, and obviously yourself being from the dark side down here, down in the south. I mean, we do sort of have a bit of a history of Kiwis and Aussies. Mike Sinclair. You mentioned Jeremy Burgess. What do you think that is? Is it just that sort of you've gone a long way, so you have a decent chop, or?
Yeah, well, you're on the other side of the world for whatever reason, whether you intended to go there to work or whether you end up working there. You're pretty wide-eyed, and you're there to make the best of what you can while you're over there. So I think most Aussies and Kiwis are fairly fair dinkum about their job when they get over there. They when I worked with Graham over there, it was never really a case of feeling the pressure of the job. It was more a case of trying to do your best, and I think that's pretty much the way most of the Aussies and Kiwis do it. We were certainly well accepted over there because of the mechanics that went before us, and Mike Sinclair actually was the contact that got me started with Suzuki. Yeah, I was over there. I'd seen Cros's book that I'd hurt myself, so I had to have some time off racing myself, and I was a mechanic, so I got the idea of working in a race team, and I met a girl who was ex-girlfriend of John Boot on a trip to the Oktoberfest. So yeah, she knew Mike, and she gave me Mike's name and contact number. So I went from there, and I rocked into Suzuki GB where he was working, and he was literally closing his briefcase to go to the airport. And he said, I don't know if I got a job myself. He said, but go and see the team manager next door in the next room, which was Rex White. So I went and saw Rex and put my name forward, and yeah, the rest is history. I guess it dragged out a bit. As I said before, I'd given up on it because it had dragged out over 3 months, and I didn't think we were actually getting anywhere. But I lived only a mile from Suzuki GB headquarters, so every time I drove past there was a reminder to give them a call. So I was fairly persistent in that sense, and yeah, I got to start that way. So yeah, I've got probably got Mike Sinclair to thank for that.
Yeah, fantastic. Just in terms of knowing the history, you talked about other Kiwis and Aussies that had come before you. What are like some of the names? And in fact, one of the other things I'd like to ask is just the people that you worked for. Obviously, Cros was fairly early on. Was he your first rider that you worked for there?
Yeah, it was pretty much. I'd done a year before with Suzuki GB where I was controlling their spare parts, and I looked after a couple of riders. I looked after Stan Woods. That's not the original Stan Woods. That's the one who rode for Honda Britain as well. Looked after him with the 650 Suzuki, big square four in the British meetings, and in that first year we did the Isle of Man and Donington with Halewood, which was a really good experience to work with Mike. He was a real gentleman, good to work with, and so yeah, I didn't really have a wealth of experience before that, but I think the people that went before us, all the Kiwis and the racers themselves that worked on their own bikes, the Kel Carruthers and the likes, and the South Africans. There was there was a few guys out of South Africa that were quite good mechanics and well recognised. Dozy Ballington, Nobby Clark, Trevor Tilbury, people like that, and got to know those guys and work with Trevor and Kel and Nobby. So yeah, they're pretty much of the same breed. It must be a Southern Hemisphere thing, but that was, yeah. There's been quite a few that paved the way, and I guess it's the fact that you're that far away from home, that you're not over there to mess up. You're over there to do the best you can with what you got at the time, and we were very fortunate that we were slotted into Suzuki factory team, and that made a lot of the areas a lot easier for us than it was for the privateers who have gone over there and battled.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for that. Great.